Now, the next thing, the next restriction, the next source of, oh my God, where did my fuel pressure go, how do I lose control, is restriction of current or restriction of electrons through those wires, those electron hoses. This is a big deal. This is potentially a huge problem. Probably the first time you saw this, you may have thought it seemed silly, but there are people that say, I've got a wiring kit that will increase the horsepower potential of your car by 100 horsepower just by rewiring the fuel pump. In some cases, it may be bullshit, because that's a good way to sell a product. But the fact is, when you start asking a lot of your system, these little wires that the manufacturers put in there may restrict the flow enough that, or may restrict the current into the motor enough that the pump could do a lot better if it was wired up a little better. Or the other thing that happens often is someone will put a larger pump in their car on the stock wiring, and it just doesn't get the job done like it should. And if you look at pump flow versus voltage, which we're going to do right now, this is from Delphi. I actually think this is a diesel transfer pump, but it doesn't matter what it is. It's a fuel pump. It moves fuel. It runs from battery power. And what you see here is flow at various voltages. I mean, just the difference in flow between 13.5 volts and 12 volts is substantial. So if you're getting 1, 2, 3 volts drop through the wiring, it's really going to add up. At that point, if you start trying to fix it by adding more bigger pumps, you're probably not going to do yourself any favors because the wiring is just not up to the task. So it is important to have a big enough wire to get the job done. So if I had to say what's a bigger problem, pump outlet restriction or current inlet restriction due to small wires, 9 times out of 10, one certain someone is the wiring. Now the good news is that you don't have to guess. You don't have to say what size wire should be there. You don't have to climb in the car and put your voltmeter on there where your buddy's holding it at boost and full RPM on the dyno to see what's going on, because there are plenty of smart electrical people who have put some interesting things on the internet that allow you to very quickly look and say, well, I have a fuel pump that's supposed to draw 20 amps at 14 volts, and I know that my wire is going to be, 40 feet long, or 10 feet long, or 5 feet long. Let me see. What size wire should I use for a max voltage drop of 10%? 10% is actually a decent amount. 14 volt system is 1.4 volts. I just pulled this off of Google Images. They're all over the internet. You can print one out, put it on your desk, save it on your laptop. You know how much current the pump draws if you're buying it from a reputable manufacturer. You know how far you have to run the wires. And by the way, that includes both the power wire and the ground. If the pump's 10 feet away and you get 10 feet of wire, that's actually 20 feet of wire. This is not a hard thing to figure out because so many people have produced charts just like this. You can, if you're a geek like me, you can even do the math, but why bother with a chart here? This should never cause a problem for anybody, but it often does. So I want to make it clear to everyone, hey, run out, take a look on the internet. In one of the rare instances where the internet actually gives you useful information, make good use of it. So that's a big one. Happens all the time, causes lots of problems. One of the most common ways to lose control.
I have a question.
Yeah.
So say I have a pump design, you can see on that upper chart there's different voltages and it flows different amounts. A 12 volt pump, will it survive running at 10 volts or 8 volts very long?
It will survive because there's overall less current draw.
Okay.
It's less trouble for the motor to do that. The real issue would be what happens if I run it at 20 volts. What's going to happen then is it spin too fast, doesn't draw too much current, and overheat. But in most cases, the only thing that happens when the pump voltage is low is it just can hardly keep up. Once you go beyond stock, you realize that makes